In today's video, Dan Vang, Lychee King, and Chung Man, three of the best Digimon players in the world, and I talk about the Digimon TCG Set 7 format and the upcoming Digimon Card Game Fest. If you guys are excited or get any value out of this video, be sure to let me know by smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel, and clicking that bell for notifications. And who knows, we might just do this again. With that said, we have a lot of questions to ask and not a lot of time, so let's hop into the video. I'm just going to go ahead and list off decks. No real particular order, but these are the decks that I think people are talking about the most, playing with the most, and probably seeing the most success with. Starting off, we got yellow hybrid, blue hybrid. I'll say red-green hybrid appears to be the current winner in popularity, but green hybrid alongside it. And then I think rounding off, we have a newcomer to the spotlight in Cherubimon. Those seem to be the biggest decks people are looking towards as the best in the format. We'll start off again with Chung. Do you think that is a very accurate representation of the meta landscape for Set 7? And can we expect this type of meta breakdown for DigiFest time in like 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think it is at least 80% accurate as soon as the band lists come out and we have our fusion band and ice wall and reinforcing. That means blue and yellow are not gonna dominate the format anymore, and as the fusion is banned, so green has the chance to shine because the tempo is slowed down by you cannot fusion, and then Susano and even ice wall, you don't see many ice walls, so probably green is yeah, you don't see many green in Japanese format meta, but I think it's pretty accurate for green having strong power in English version BT7. And Cherubi, I think Cherubimon is the deck is pretty good. Having retaliation, having you can blinding ray, and even Bokomon does a lot of value there. And you can also play the Kari that you can slow down your opponent's tempo. And but I think there is also a chance for breaking in early game, and you have to set up your trash, so may not be the best, but is also very good.
Awesome. Would there be any decks that you think people are not talking about right now that maybe they should look at, whether it was a deck that did really well in Japan that no one seems to be going for right now, or is there any like deck that you're just like wishing people kind of take note of?
Maybe I want to see more Lord Nightmon. Just as I said, the fusion and ice wall were limited, and the format is going slower. That means maybe Lord Knight is a pretty good choice. You have high DP for Lord Knight, and you have very strong summon power of like Nightmon, Glady, and yeah, I think Lord Knight, especially we have more tamers for every deck builds, hybrid decks for now, and your Lord Knight is hard to die in the first wing.
Oh yeah,
and it gives a lot of pressure to your opponent to kill, and even with some like retaliation, you can also set up blockers for that. And yeah, I think it worth a chance for test. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And then Dan, feel free to talk about the meta landscape like I laid it out earlier. If you think anything is missing, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with all those decks, including what Chungman said. I think Lord Daimon is still a solid choice as well, like with all the reasons he expressed. Did you say yellow purple as well, or no?
I did. Yeah. That was the first deck I mentioned. I wanted to also add like pure yellow hybrid, but I feel like yellow purple is the current like understood like best version of that deck. Whether or not people kind of experiment with it or change it a bit as time goes on, we'll see. But for now, overall, yellow purple seems to be the flavor right now.
Yes. So I do agree with pretty much all those decks listed by you and Chungman. I do think we'll see a sprinkle of Jesmon here and there.
Right.
Obviously, people trying to take advantage of the mulligan and the side deck rules. But I think all those decks listed would be the ones that we'll definitely see for this whole meta landscape for now.
And then as our aggro player on the panel right now, what is your favorite flavor of red hybrid, which appears to be the preferred aggro deck right now? Like what does your red hybrid deck look like?
Are you? So my red hybrid is running the ancient Greymon package. I was lucky enough to snag all the alt arts that I could, like a playset before they jumped in price overall. But yeah, I do like it a lot. I've just, as you know, from Monday when I lost to you, I do like running the green red right now as well as an aggro deck.
So you just think that like Emperor Greymon Pure is just missing like that extra bit of oomph it needs to really take down like the more stally / yellow hybrid decks?
Yeah, I think just for me, and people can always, I'm not a know-it-all. Like if I'm playing this deck wrong, someone correct me too. But I think my thing is trying to find those ancient pieces, swing for multiple checks, and right, and Emperor Greymon's the secondary. Like let's blitz for game if we can, right?
Yeah. That seems to be like the current main strategy to beat yellow as a red player is you just set up an ancient Greymon and like the raising, you come up, you swing 5 times, and then you go for like a blitz to win the game. That seems to be the consensus on the best way to beat yellow. I do think there are like different ways to pilot red. Like you said, there's no like best answer at the current point in time. And I think there's still like a lot unknown given how early we're into set 7 that I'm sure a ton of innovation will be done by the time we get to Cardfest. But understanding like where we're at currently is a good place to start. So that way, if you do want to try out red hybrid, you can know all the options available to you.
Yes, agreed.
All right, Lychee. I'm sure there'll be one color in particular you want to talk about, but is there anything missing from the meta landscape that I mentioned just now?
Okay, so it might be unpopular opinion here, but like with the meta landscape, I put it in all the tier 1 decks in basically a tier list. All of these decks are tier 1s, but I believe blue hybrid and red hybrid are gonna be king in the format. They will be so far every single list needs a little bit of refinement and improvement. But once everyone gets their final list done, red hybrid and blue hybrid will look to dominate the format. Then Jesmon and Lilith Serb is gonna be a big thing also. So
Lilith,
those
yeah.
4 decks with the Mulligan ruling around, probably even Jesmon and the Lilithmon Cerberus deck would take over or overtake a little bit or get a notch up red and blue hybrid. So those are the 4 decks I believe are the strongest decks in the format. And then yellow and green, I believe yellow and green is tier 1, but they are gatekeep tier 1 right now. So uh, if let's say a really good player like these two would fight up against a yellow deck, you would be able to navigate through yellow and win consistently. So I can't say yellow purple is like the top of the list or the best deck,
Right.
because you could easily navigate it once you're like used to it. But I've heard a list from Eli Hill that there is like more ceiling for yellow, and I can't give it out. But
Right.
a clue for you guys would be play slower. Play slower, and it'll be a little bit more of a control build. And it looks scary. It sounds scary. So yellow might also join the higher ranks of tier 1. But yeah, so far on my assessment, Red Emperor Greymon and Blue Hybrid are really strong. Like there is like your match with Dan showcased it with Blue Hybrid versus Green.
Right.
And yeah, no one has been playing Nemon for a bit.
Messed
So
me up. Messed me up.
yeah, once the tech came in, there's like the ceiling just went up, and there's even a little bit more room for improvement for consistency. and
Mhm.
it looks and sounds scary. So yeah, those are for me the landscape of the like all tier one decks right now that are being looked at. Cherubi's nice, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I put it tier one yet. It hasn't proven itself. And back again to the current Shine Gray Yellow hybrid builds.
Mhm.
It just has so much bad matchups. Uh, you play up against Red Hybrid, you most likely have a bad matchup. Cherubi beats you most likely too.
Oh yeah, Cherubi
Uh,
farms yellow. That's what people are like. Oh, Cherubi's the new hotness because it's like the only deck that can like
yeah,
auto win yellow, like no question. Because the second you play Cherubimon, it's just like, what are they gonna do? Kill it? Okay, cool, thanks.
yeah. Then Jesmon farms it also
True.
most likely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of decks that could farm yellow, sadly,
Mm-hmm.
and there is I have seen a way to circumvent it, and I can't give it out because it's scary.
Right. I've
So
seen some funny takes on yellow hybrid that make it like a hard control deck versus like this current like grind game type deck that it's going for. I've also seen versions that go like hard aggro and just go, hey, we have BT1
yeah,
Serafimon, he can gain plus security. That's kind of funny. So again, I think it just harks back to we're in a current meta where nothing's truly solved. Like
yeah,
Chung mentioned earlier, the ban list changed so much from what was originally thought of as this is what BT7 is going to look like. What we have now is confusing to a lot of people, but I think we're getting like a good ebb and flow. I think the closest deck right now to being solved is blue hybrid, which I find very hilarious given that it was the deck that had the most question marks going in to set 7. Like, is this even good? Is Magna enough to win games? Is this engine strong enough to not lose to things like yellow hybrid? So far, the answers have all been yes, because when you have as consistent a deck and as powerful as a resource engine as blue has had over the countless amounts of support it's had, it's no question that it's going to be able to do well. There are variants that use Bond of Friendship, Magna for like potential like diverging win conditions. I think both are fine. I'm a pure man when it comes to hybrid at the moment, but I could see myself going towards Bond of Friendship if more aggression is needed against necessarily like a big control deck, right? So overall, I think even though there are some obvious winners and losers in the minds of certain players, until we actually walk up on tournament day, it is tough to say what that meta is going to actually look like. But like Lychee said, if you're maybe a newer player, make sure that you don't just hard lose to the gatekeeper decks like red and green hybrid or yellow hybrid specifically, because having your game plan for those strategies in the early rounds will lead to you having a better chance of doing well in basically finishing the way you want to in those bigger events. So we have 2 people going to DigiFest and 1 person not going to DigiFest in the call. As I'm sure all of us are well aware, the Digimon Card Fest will have modified gameplay rules of mulligans and side decks. Do you guys think that this will change your mentality for picking what deck is good and which decks are not good for this event?
So with the new rules, Mulligan, I think some of Dan and Lychee may agree. Decks rely on specific cards or Digimons or require smooth Digivolution stacks in breeding area can take a little more advantage than others, like hybrid decks. An extreme case would be Rookie Rush. Mostly you won't feel a big difference with Mulligan in Rookie Rush. But for example, like decks like Jesmon, you can have another chance to find a smooth line. Lilith Loop can find a scatter mode that you start with, and you don't need to pay extra memory for searching those cards. You get a better start in the game, and yeah. And for side decks, I think there's there may be a lot of variety. Yeah, huge variety that I can't tell much differences between decks because players' creativity will make the game interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, 2 players can with having the same main deck list can have a totally different side decks. They can um, have a totally different outcome. And The new rules affect me in selecting decks. If I want to play a hybrid deck, probably will choose the deck and get rid of rookies with some cards. Since if you, if after the game one, if your opponent see you're playing hybrid, they're gonna just uh, side in some Gaussmon, max out Siako, max out Cubemon, things like this to slow down your tempo. And for like red hybrid, you can max your atomic blaster in your side. You can put in Forbidden Trident in your blue, and that'll be a good answer for especially there may be also some Pokemon and regular rookies that you have a lot of chance to use those cards. And with the Mulligan, I think deck builds may include more powerful security options like Gaia Force, Kakaida's Breath, Wyverns. Um, if players see them in their starting hand, they can just Mulligan and um, they won't see it in your starting hand. And in consideration with this, I think Jasmine and Red Hybrid have the ability to negate security options, and it's pretty safe. They are also very good decks. I think will be a good choice for playing with new rules for red decks.
Okay, for sure. And then one thing I want to just briefly touch on, we'll get probably into a deeper discussion about it once everyone's done. But right now, are there any like obvious winners and losers because of the inclusion of mulligans and side decks that you see? You mentioned decks that rely on heavy stacks or very clean sources, like Jessamon, for example, really value a mulligan, whereas decks like hybrid decks, where a lot of the cards are just part of a bigger engine that you're naturally searching for all the time anyway, doesn't really care about too much, or side decks can really hurt something and make things unplayable. Anything like that obvious to you right now?
I don't see a very obvious trend right now, and also I didn't test for a lot of games with new rules, but I think it's pretty solid because you have a regular game one, and after the game one, you both change the deck. So maybe your opponent is gonna pick some cards to counter you, but you're also picking some card to counter them. So maybe you can counter their counter.
Yeah, that's the mind games of side decks are definitely going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. So I still not see a very new trend with new rules.
Dan, modified rules for Cardfest. You're going to Miami. Does this impact your decision making at all? And are there any obvious winners and losers from what you've tested or what you've seen?
Sure, yeah. So, like Chungman said, like Mulligan definitely allows like the decks that have stacks, right?
Yeah.
A second chance to see something, but it also allows hybrid decks the chance to see a rookie too if they need it, if they're playing a different color. Like like I'll say red green, right? The Mulligan definitely helps me out a lot from my testing. Like, like I drew like maybe unoptimy, like maybe I drew like the Mimi, like atomics, no red rookies, and like a thunder laser. I'm like, I don't need any of these. I'm gonna toss it to the bottom, and hopefully I get at least a JP, a different tamer, and one red rookie or a Pokemon to kind of start off. So I do think Mulligan is definitely advantageous for most decks, if not all decks, right? Side decks definitely will be a big factor, and I think me playing aggro at the end of the day still is one of those things where it's like, okay, aggro is still aggro. You can still tech against it, but I can still prepare to do the multiple checks with Atomic Inferno or Sec +1 kind of inherits.
Right.
Unless I'm playing blue hybrid and they keep stunning me, but that's a whole other story, right? It's a whole other story.
And what's funny too is like with the red deck in particular, like some of your natural in-engine cards just beat the techs. Like, Mechanorimon can't really stop you because Atomic Inferno just gains me more memory and I'll just gain extra attackers out of it. And probably my dude is now stronger than your Mechanorimon, so it's not even going to restand afterwards, even if it's a rookie, which is very funny sometimes. So definitely taking into consideration like what cards are even viable to stop certain strategies is a very big deal when deciding what cards should go in your side deck, because I don't think the old guaranteed techs that would go in to stop the regular things like Rookie Rush and stuff are going to work anymore, given the new flavors we have for the different archetypes. Ichi, side decks, winners, losers, does it impact your decision making in general? You're not playing in the Card Fest, so I doubt you're testing it super hard, but has there been any situations like, oh, your locals are doing side decks because they can and they want to help people prepare? Have you seen any trends and stuff like that that you think are going to be pretty important for people to keep note of?
Yeah. So I think the winners and losers have all been mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
but our locals are playing side decks for every single week. So I have been open and testing with it, side decks and mulligans. But my opinion on both side decks and mulligans are kind of flipped.
Mm-hmm.
I believe side decks might even be bad for the game as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys mentioned it, muskets and download might never be a thing anymore, or might never be a tier 1 deck anymore. So a whole line of like um like a playset will never be tier 1 because there's gonna be you just side deck 2 cards and it's just gonna kill off a whole deck.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
for me, side decks is kind of a no. And Mulligan has been nice, and the winners has been mentioned like Jesmon and Lilith Loop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But after playing Mulligans for like a couple weeks now, and then you take off Mulligans and playing straight without Mulligans, it feels kind of nice also to go back and not play with Mulligans. So uh, it's it. I'm still on the fence with Mulligans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like uh, I feel like there should be like a punishment for Mulligans. Like you.
Like there's definitely a cost associated with it, you know? Like, what's the opportunity cost of sending this one copy of Jesmon to the bottom of my deck? Well, it could be that there's another one in my security, and now I'll never see the second or third one before it's too late, you know? Like, I do think there is like a line
Yeah.
of strategy when it comes to when you mulligan and when you don't. It's not just, oh, this hand's not playable, put it at the bottom, draw 5 new cards perfectly great all the time. There is some risk associated with it. But I do want to ask you, I think you touched on something just now. We'll get into like the actual like hard opinions and everything in a second, but I want to just ask you, do you think Mulligan's existing changes the way people build decks, or does it not?
Very much yes.
Oh, can you
Right.
give an example of what that would look like for you?
Right now, tall decks could get away, like tall decks evoing straight to level 6. A
Mm-hmm.
best example would be Dorugoramon, uh, the X antibody deck.
Yes.
Uh, you could get away with playing 11 rookies, 12 rookies. Before it was you'd have like a 14 count, 13 count. Now you could get away with that much rookies. You could cut your level 4 to like maybe 10, maybe even 9. So it's like a lower count, and you play a little bit more into searchers
Mm-hmm.
in the deck because you're just finding like a combo piece like Jesmon.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a whole like if moving forward mulligans become a permanent thing, deck ratios will like really just change. Is what I feel like.
For the decks that really benefit from a mulligan. I don't think like a mulligan changes the way you would build a hybrid deck, for example. Like I would still want to play like 4 copies of Tommy, 3 copies of Davis, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
But I do think you're right though that when it comes to opening up card spaces, you see it the most in decks like Lilith, Jesmon, Thorgora, Turtle Turbo, anything that like actually classically will evolve up to level 6.
Yeah, because before you kind of get punished if you get a brick and you don't see your line, but now there's like a second chance for you. So cutting down your numbers is doesn't feel so bad at all. Like that mulligan really helps out, especially for those decks.
Especially for them, yeah, for sure. All right, and Lychee just touched on his, but I want to get everyone's just like general opinion on if mulligans and side decks become a permanent addition into Digimon. Do you think it'd be a good thing or a bad thing? Depends on which one stays and which one goes, etc. Lychee, you were basically kind of for mulligans, but also like they can go, and then side decks just bad. we don't need it. Why make decks that were playable not playable for no reason?
Definitely. Yeah, I would stick to that. In my opinion.
But Dan, give us your opinions on side decks mulligans, good or bad.
Sure. I like mulligans. I think mulligans should stay. Honestly, everyone has this like discussion, and sometimes it gets heated. But at the end of the day, and I could be like, "Well, we tried it. No to both," and then everyone's like, "Well, we're back to square one."
Right.
I think mulligans are good for the game. I think it just gives everyone just another chance to play. It doesn't, like you said earlier, it's the cost of it. Like you don't know what the new cards are. It could be a worse hand. You're hoping it's a better hand, but it could be a worse hand. Like especially for Jessamon, right? Everyone like Jessamon has like some of the highest potential like ever, right? You're like, oh man, they could just draw the whole line, but they could tuck everything and then just draw like 5 Sistermons, and you're like, well, it's over now, right?
Oh yeah, I've definitely had those hands testing Jessamon. Also, a funny thing is like that comes up all the time is if you do take the risk, and I'm like, I'm gonna play this spicy one of them in my main deck because it comes up all the time, and then you open it, but no other playable cards, and then you put that spicy one up to the bottom, you ain't shuffling, it's staying there until you draw it again, and so that is always a big yikes moment too, and a decision you have to make as a player. So Mulligan, I definitely think has been designed very well, but I also think the game originally Digimon was designed very well, and it was originally designed without a mulligan. So I can see both sides of like, well, we just don't need a mulligan. It's not those. It's like nice, of course, but it's not necessarily something that is required to build a deck well or to play really well. It just allows us to have a bit of extra freedom when it comes to deck building these slower, build up decks versus these like fast board advantage type hybrid decks at the current landscape. In the future, decks are going to look super different, obviously, because new sets will come out. But overall, those like main 2 types of deck lists will always kind of exist.
Exactly. For side decks, to touch on side decks, I'm still on the fence. I wouldn't be mad if it was incorporated into the game. Like everybody, like I'm 100% sure. Like every competitive player, we're gonna adapt. We're just gonna adapt, whether we like it or not. Right? If it's there, we'll adapt. If it doesn't happen, I'm not hurting either. I think maybe 10 cards for a side deck, maybe too much for this game personally. Because like as we talked about, just the fact that Digisorption. That ain't happening, right?
Right.
We would just side deck all of it.
Right, like even if like Three Muskies was the best deck in the format, let's say we had 5 cards in our side deck, would we really commit like almost half of our side deck to just dealing with that one deck, and then we're never gonna play against it? Like then we're just getting into the argument of like, well, do you play Mechanorimon or don't you for the Rookie Rush decks you're gonna fight against in your main deck from like 2 sets ago? And you're like, probably not, because Rookie Rush isn't doing that much right now. Sure, it did well this one time. That doesn't mean anything for the next tournament that I'm going to necessarily. So I could totally see like if they change the way side decks look, it being a much more easier transition, but also like it's one of those things again where the game has not been designed for a side deck at all, and so for the game to just introduce it out of nowhere is definitely foreign to a lot of people. But I think we competitive players and the people that like have been really going hard with it have been adapting and finding out new ways to make it interesting. It's just a matter of, is it going to stay or is it going to go? And I think that does depend on how well these Digi-Card Fest tournaments go with it.
For the side deck, right? At the end of the day, too, whether it stays or goes, people understand like side deck could limit Bandai's R&D design, right? Future design. Not like for a business decision. I mean, I don't know if Bandai's going to watch this. Bandai, don't listen to me. I'm just talking out of my head, okay? But for a business decision, right, it's easier to not have the side deck for them, right? Because then they have more room to slip up and make quote unquote broken cards, right? Because then they'll be like, oh well, there's no side deck. Like it's a little easier for them. And I can guarantee, like, our game won't die in like 2 sets or something, right?
Right.
Or they'll just ban the card.
Yeah, for sure. And just to clarify, you don't mean like a broken archetype, like, oh, we made Jessamon too strong and now we need to find a way to balance it, right? I think what you're saying is like any one card that just like can cripple an entire deck. If side decks don't exist, that's not really a big deal. A good example is there's this new green level 3 or something that comes out in set 9, I want to say, that just straight up says you can't summon dudes from hand without just hard playing them. And so that can be a card that if a side deck was included could literally stifle so much design in the future of the game, because now no matter how cool you make an archetype that summons from hand, there's this check to it that now people are going to be like, well, why would I play it when someone can just beat me with a 3-cost rookie from green no matter what I play?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that better.
Right. Because like obviously having an answer to broken archetypes that rule formats for 5 sets, that's a good thing to introduce into a game. But having like a card that can be played in anything that wasn't originally a problem now become a problem because of side decks, that's where it can get like hinky. All right, Chung, your opinions on Mulligan's side decks, good or bad?
Right. First for Mulligan, I think Mulligan is nice. It's good. And for side decks, I do agree. Side decks, 10 cards is too many. I think the mechanism can be changed a little bit. That is actually just change a little bit of your main deck's play style of mechanism. For example, just like purple yellow hybrid, you change Dynasmon into Shine Greymon if you face very like rush board and you want to kill off with Shine Greymon, or you want to change into another the BT7 new high 10 warrior level 6 that you want to bump up your security DP. That's also your choice. But yeah, 10 may be too many for. Yeah, it's actually very hard for the players to choose, and I think 5 is pretty good. But yeah, as Dan said, we adapt to the rules, and I have no opinion of adding side decks because actually you can change your main deck's ratio. Like Lichi said, you can cut off some rookies and playing many other techs, and I don't think this is bad, but it's also not bad for focusing on the main deck building, because if you have no side decks, you have to pay more works on the main deck building, like 50 cards. You have to think a lot of situations, and yeah, so we'll see if the side decks, if people love having side decks, and I think 10 is too many. Yeah, maybe cut a little. If they gonna apply side decks, will be better.
For sure. And then, so like overall, I think like the cool thing about a side deck, or like the dance you kind of mentioned between like finding the right ratio between your main deck and your side deck, because half of side decking is also understanding what cards come out from your main deck to then put these new cards in. And if you don't take into consideration how your main deck is built when picking your side deck, that can really throw off how you actually use it in a tournament. And so that, I think, has been a thing personally I've been enjoying, as well as I think figuring out like the best ratio for certain cards to other cards has been a cool process. And that's kind of my stance on it right now, by the way, is I enjoy the process of adapting to these new rules and figuring out these side deck inclusions, this new way to build a main deck with a mulligan, which decks become better, which decks don't. And I think the overall consensus is the same for the player base, because I have never seen a take of, why are we even doing this? It's very understood. Like, I think the intentions behind the side deck and the mulligan is to make the game better. And so no one is going, hey, let's just not do it at all, or they're just dumb for trying to do this. But whether or not we keep it or not is going to be probably up to us / up to what Bandai observes from these upcoming events where they're included. And I'm all for that. I'm all for trying stuff out. I'm all for figuring out a new way to play that is considered proper or optimal. It's just a matter of if I have to or not is going to be an interesting decision that at this current point in time, I have no real opinion on. I think the game would be fine with both of these inclusions, with neither, with either or. I will say, if we don't get mulligan but do get side deck, that seems like the one thing that's not going to happen at all. I think the most likely decision is going to be mulligan stay, side decks go, but if both stay, I would not be surprised. Great points all around. It's been absolutely lovely having you guys. Before I get into the final question, the big juicy question, I want to open it up to the chat. We do have a live chat of people listening to our talk. Is there anything you guys have that you want to ask the entire panel, myself, Chung, Dan, Lychee, while we are here, before I ask them the final question and let them go so they can finally rest up and get ready for the next tournament they're playing in, or just relax? What is your favorite Digimon card art? A bit of a personal question. We'll start off with Lychee for this one. Let me take a bold guess here and say it's Alt-Art Black War Greymon from set 2.
Oh, spot on.
Man, when you're on the same wavelength with someone, it's really easy to hear their thoughts. It's really easy.
Yeah.
It's all it is.
Spot on. That's perfect. And you just pair it side by side with the Alt-Art Wargreymon BT1.
Oh
Perfect.
yeah. The like Mexican standoff of War Greymons. Yeah, it looks really nice. I actually have both of those cards in a binder. I should put them next to each other. Dan, how about you?
I really like the SlashAngemon, the alternate art one.
My man, this is a panel that I can vibe with all day. People are just reading my minds right now.
I kid you not.
Let's
I was
go.
like looking at SlashAngemon. I was like, bro, I wish we got an alt art of this. And then like a week later, Japan showed like the alt art. I was like, I need that. And then they showed it for Fest, and I was like, yes. That's it right there.
My goal after going to Texas and Miami is to have 100 of the SlashAngemon alternate arts. Everyone send them to me. I have a PO box, !PO. If you get them, give them to me. I need them. I want them. Chung, how about you?
You're asking the fest art? Or,
No. You're just your favorite
all
Digimon card art in general. Regular art, alt art. What's your favorite?
My favorite for regular boosters would be Shine Greymon Alt Art.
Shine Greymon. Oh, clean.
Yeah, Shine Greymon
Very nice.
Is in like yellow and red colors, and the background is gold. Is like so amazing. The art, and the angle is so amazing. Like the
like
he's
hero
going
pose
for
he's going for, yeah.
Yeah, he's going for it, and for the tournament cards, I mostly love the Agumon of Bravery.
Well, yeah, sure.
My bad.
I'm sure you love that very much. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely
when
one of
they-
the cool ones.
Yeah, when they first released the art, I was like, oh my god.
Did you think
is-
that would be on your shelf when you saw it for the first time?
I am not sure, but I'm just try all my best, and
Chungman emailed Bandai the day of. He was like, yo, just here's my address.
Just hey, here's the address. Just have it ready. You're gonna need it. Chung, let me ask you a Sophie's Choice type question. Which one goes in the fire? Omnimon from Evo Cup or Agumon from Nats?
Omnimon.
Get
that
fucking
much.
wrecked. Get wrecked,
I don't-
Omnimon.
I don't want to choose, but
Right. I'm
Yeah.
forcing you. I'm telling you have to do it. No one else. You would never do it, but I'm telling you have to do it.
I'm just gonna follow up because if he burns one, he still has 2 more. Just putting that out there.
You know what? That is a very fair point. That is definitely affecting his decision making. Lychee, if DigiFest was tomorrow and you were playing in it and you can't test anymore, what one deck would you bring, and what one card is 1000% going in your side deck?
Black Wargreymon. No, it is true.
I know. I believe. That's why I'm laughing. I believe you. I'm like, why did I even ask the question? I could have answered it for you.
I have not shown the list anywhere, but it works. I believe it is tier 1 still. Black Wargreymon can work on the format, and I will. If I go to Digifest, I will run it. Try to surprise a whole bunch of people. And hopefully top or win it. And side deck, Breath of the Gods.
Breath of the Gods. Oh, that is a hot black side deck card. That's basically, for those that don't know, it basically kind of works like Holy Flame in that you just don't take damage anymore if it's in your security. But like, it's even better because it actually has a good effect. So it's funny. Dan,
Sure.
if Miami was tomorrow, you're not allowed to test anymore. What one deck are you bringing? What one card's going in your side deck?
Sure, I think it'd probably be just the red hybrid
Mm.
side deck. That's tough.
It has to be one card. It could be multiple copies of that one card, but that one card will be in there.
Big Atomic Blaster, straight up. Just I need it, like, especially against a blue matchup. Like I need it. Like I need to wipe that. Like I'll wipe like could potentially wipe like 4 bodies. Like that's not gonna happen. Maybe like 2, really, but maybe like even 3, right? Like double Boko, Bokunimon, Kumamon, something like that. Where at least if I'm behind, at least getting rid of your board, I might still be a little behind, but at least I board wiped, right? And now you're kind of setting up again, realistically.
Because like the biggest problem blue has right now is just getting enough damage to kill people fast enough. Because like you're a fast deck, but you're not really an aggressive deck, and so it's hard to just like finish games off when you're so far ahead that you don't want to give your opponent time. And removal like Atomic Blaster can really set a blue player back, and that's sometimes all any deck, not even just red, needs to beat them. So definitely a big card for sure. Now Chung, yours will be a bit different. If Worlds was tomorrow, which, you know, I guess technically it's possible that it is. Hopefully not for you. And you can't test anymore what one card is going in your deck. And you know what? Let's go crazy. Let's say there are side decks in Worlds. What one's card's going in your side deck?
I'll be will be the same as Dan said, exactly the same red hybrid and Atomic Blaster.
Really? I would not have guessed that from you. Knowing the way you like to play. I did not take you as an aggro boy.
Yeah, I can go aggro, and but red hybrid with Atomic Blaster is the aggro with consistency that if there is a side deck, if they see you playing hybrid deck, probably they will put in those Gazi or those annoying guys.
The like reduce blockers guys to stop your Aldemon shenanigans.
Reduce cost, blocking memories, and Bokomon, probably Nemon, and yeah, they are all possible. And then even if there will be purple deck, I need to get rid of the Neo Devimon.
Perfect. And then just so I can answer this question as well, if Digimon Fest was tomorrow, I am playing in Miami. I'm not playing in Texas, and I'm not allowed to test anymore. I am taking Blue Hybrid, and I'm playing 4 Nemon in the main, and I'm side decking Pokemon because the card's garbage. I'm just kidding. I think I'll do Blue Hybrid, and a guaranteed card that'll always be in my side deck for Blue Hybrid is Kendo Garurumon, the OG from set 4. That card's a really nice splash for taking out certain hybrids to then actually get board control against decks. So it's OG Kendo. All right. That does it for today's interview. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I'll go ahead and give it to you guys now for some shout outs if you want to do anything last minute. We'll just start off with Chung here, and then you guys can head out. I appreciate you for having me on. I appreciate you for giving me your time for today's talk.
All right. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for the chat. And my team combo is can be searched on Facebook, and is also have an Instagram, and we're a team focused on Digimon TCG and Keyforge. I don't know. Is another card game.
It's the game made by the creator of Magic. It's like built-in decks. Really cool, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the battle of pre-builts, as I like to call it. Who stands above the rest?
Yeah.
Shout outs to Guy First Gaming, obviously Steven for having us here, Chungman, Lychee, great players. I played against them, I've lost against them. Always good people to just talk to and just build ideas with. Shout outs to Digital Academy, Marvelous Gaming World. A lot of guys from Digital Academy are pretty much the ones building decks, and I'm just the one giving bad ideas out there. So if I'm piloting stuff, it's probably someone else's list.
You're the one that's like, okay, Aguban's cool, but what if we just put Madoki in there?
Yeah, it's like, hear me out. But yeah, shout out to everyone else too.
Lychee, over to you, man.
Oh, thanks for this amazing conversation, Steven. And amazing to always talk to you, Chungman and Dan Bang. Yeah, best players in the world. And I was spot on with blue and red being king, because you three are picking it, bringing it to the next tournament you're bringing, and yeah, it just confirms my suspicion. But yeah, shout out to Team Limit Break, the team I'm part of, and shout out to the locals I go to here in SoCal, DXN. If anyone is in SoCal, they're doing like a case tournament by the end of the month, so look us up. And yeah, Steven, if you're ever free, come over. We'll welcome you with a red carpet or something.
All right, and that's it. So thank you guys so much again. Thank you, chat, for listening. Hopefully, we were able to teach you guys some things today. Hopefully, their insights helped you make some decisions for yourselves. I will not take any more of their time than I have to. Guys, feel free to leave the call. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for stopping by.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Steven.
Peace
Bye,
out.
guys.
That was absolutely wonderful, wasn't it, everyone? So much fun hanging out with them. I love talking with the best players in the world. And I also love sometimes how simple they think about everything, because I'm someone that overthinks everything. But those guys, they're some of the best players in the world. They're just like, I play what I like. I know what's good. I know what's not good. I wish I could think like that, but I have to overthink everything. And having them is pretty nice.